Hi, I am Sharon Bodie. I am the one of the program coordinators for Gulf Coast Dietetic Internship. We welcome you to our virtual open house. The rest of our staff, Karen Lewis is the other program coordinator. Gina Wack is in charge of program accreditation. We're glad to have you. What I want to accomplish today is to do an overview of our program and kind of fill in the specifics for you. And then I'm going to go to some frequently asked questions that we get by email or calls or in previous open houses. And hopefully by the end of all of this, you'll have your questions answered. But if you don't, be sure to pick up the phone and give Gina a call or send an email, and that will come to me. All of that contact information is available on our website. So, let's start with the highlights of the program. We are an accredited distance program. And if you're not familiar with distance programs, what that means is that you are responsible for finding your own sites. Instead of a traditional internship, you would go wherever the internship is located and they would put you into facilities that they have contracts with. So the difference is with a distance, you can stay home. It's a much less expensive way of doing it rather than having to move to whatever city that your internship might be in. Second thing would be that you get to pick what you're doing. So whatever your interests are, you can pursue those interests and pursue dietitians or other types of preceptors who would be willing to teach you in the areas of your interest. In a regular dietetic internship, you have no choices. You're going to get assigned, and that's what you're going to do. So we obviously think a distance internship is the way to go. It makes sense on a lot of levels. It just requires that you have to be proactive in finding your preceptors. And that can be a challenge, and we understand that. And we are here to help you, but we do the best that we can to facilitate getting agreements with the sites that you're interested in. Our internship is probably one of the shortest in the country. It's 24 weeks total. Of that, that 24 weeks has to add up to 1,000 hours. That's what accreditation requires. The way we break our hours out, we have 10 weeks of clinical, and this is basically on a 40-hour week. We have 6 weeks of food service, 5 weeks in community, and 3 weeks of an elective. And the elective is whatever you choose it to be. In years past, all internships had to have a primary, I don't remember what they called them, but our focus was entrepreneurship. And in the subsequent accreditation standards, they have dropped that. So if you've looked on our website and it still says something about entrepreneurship, you can certainly pursue entrepreneurial opportunities as your elective, but it's not required. You can do your elective of anything you want to do. It has to have a nutrition component slant to it, if you will. But really, it's an opportunity for you to go and try something that, you might not otherwise get the opportunity to do. And, use your imagination. We've had people that worked farms. We've had people that worked farmers markets that, there's just all sorts of things. Sports nutrition is always popular. So, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and see what you can find for that 3 weeks. And again, we don't have any restrictions on that. We don't have any particular requirements for that. rotation other than, as is the same with all of our rotations, there is a major project that's required, but you have some choices on what you do your major project on, and we can talk about that in further detail if you have questions on it. We do have an orientation that's required. You cannot start rotations until you have been through our orientation. And orientation typically is about 2 days, and it's virtual. So if you are applying to the fall match, the orientation will be in January, usually like second week or so of January, for a couple of days. In addition to orientation, we have some online modules. And so once you are accepted into the program, then you will get put into or given access to the online modules, and you complete those. Kind of just gives us an indication of where you are knowledge-wise, and allows us to help you if you have areas of concern. I mentioned earlier that there are major projects for each rotation. So for example, the major project for clinical has you do an in-depth case study, and you're going to pick a patient who's got an unusual surgery, disease, whatever. And then you would do a little bit of a lit review, researching that thing that you're looking at, and then you would document your work with the patient. So, okay, I assessed this patient, this is what I came up with, this is what I recommended, etc. So that's what the clinical one looks like. Food service is sort of a capstone for the food service experience. So we'd have you develop like a new food item. And then you would do all of the work for fixing it into the menu. How do you order for it? The inventory, how do you teach the kitchen staff to make this? What would you charge for it if you were in a hospital? Or, we adapt these things to whatever kind of a situation you're in. Community is a project that has you choose a community problem. So let's say you lived in a community that had like a large number of Native Americans. Okay, Native Americans, many of them have a lot of trouble with diabetes. So you could come up with an education program that you wanted to do that was targeted towards Native Americans. So you would develop the program, figure out how to market it, create your educational materials. So those sorts of things. For the elective, I mentioned before, you could still do we used to require a business plan. If that's not in your future and not of your interest, then we have some new projects that might involve making a video or something along those lines. So there is some choice there. And if you had other things that you would like to pursue, that would be something that you would discuss with your coordinator and see if we couldn't work that project to be something that was more beneficial to you. One positive thing about distance, this is as I mentioned earlier, it's a cheaper alternative. Our tuition is $8,500. That's for in-state or out-of-state, makes no difference. We do allow a payment plan, and so you have 90 days from the time that you start your rotations to make your payments. You may make 1, 2, or 3 payments. We understand that's a big chunk of money and a little bit difficult to put your hands on, so we are trying to work with you to make sure we make this as simple as possible. Now, you might wonder, why should I choose GCDI? What is different about GCDI than other programs? And I would say the main thing that's different is our philosophy. We believe that having an internship and going through this process in order to get your RD. We know it's stressful. The application process and all that stuff is a lot of stress, but we think the internship ought to be fun. You're learning some new stuff. This is your professional path, and it just doesn't have to be a bad experience. A lot of internships are. And so we are flexible, and we don't require a lot of, I would call it, homework from you. Once you're admitted to the program, you complete those online modules I was talking about. But beyond that, and your major projects, we allow the preceptors to assign you whatever work you're going to do. So you aren't going to be going home every night with all this stuff that GCDI requires me to do. I've already told you everything you have to do. By and large, the only thing I haven't mentioned is preparing for the RD exam, and we'll talk about that again. Number two, besides being fun, we're short. 24 weeks is really short, and it'll go by really fast, okay? And we recommend that you try and get 45 to 50 hours a week so that you can get finished in that 24-week time frame. Some dietitians don't work more than 40 hours a week, and so maybe they'll give you stuff to do at home, maybe they won't. But we're just suggesting get as many hours as you can and get finished. Maybe you can do some things on the weekend. Just, we are flexible on your schedule. We also accept prior learning, and prior learning is something I'll talk about again in a minute, but it is a way to get credit for rotations, and that would cut your 24 weeks down. We do help with the RD exam. We have a lot of review materials. We encourage you to practice quiz and go through some different steps to get ready for that exam. It's a big exam and it's a tough exam. And we have stuff for you to use. Lots of people get with outside companies that do some review. That stuff is up to you. We're not going to require it. There is an exit exam for us, and so we put that in there to get you working on being ready for the RD exam. The exit exam, you get 2 tries. The exit exam is very similar to the RD exam, and so it is helping you prepare for the RD exam, but it's also telling you you have to be studying throughout the program in order to pass the exit exam. And, we're required to have a high level of success on the RD exam, and we have found the exit exam to be a really good way to do that. You get 2 tries, and many people are surprised at how difficult the exam is for the first time, but then they pass it the second time. Okay, let's talk a little bit about prior learning. Prior learning is, we are allowed to do that through our accreditation. And what it means is we are going to waive, if you meet the standards, we are going to waive a rotation for you. So let's say you've worked for a couple of years for WIC. Our philosophy is that it's absolutely ridiculous for you to have to go back to WIC for 5 more weeks to do what you've already been doing for a couple of years. And so what we have you do is we have whoever your employer was, and that's key. We do not give prior learning for volunteer experience. And the reason for that is because a volunteer worker never has the same level of responsibility that an intern would or an employee would. And so if you have paid work experience 6 months or more in a related field to something that you would otherwise be doing in the internship, okay, a rotation, then we would have you have your employer fill out the paperwork the same way your preceptors are going to be filling out your paperwork when you complete a rotation with them. And so you get with your program coordinator, and we look at what your experience was and see that it matches up to the competencies that are required. Okay, so the competencies are basically your curriculum in the internship. And so if they match up nicely with the competencies, then it's very easy for us to give that credit. So if you get credit for food service management, you get 6 weeks off the internship. It's done. You just have to get the paperwork done. We do not give clinical credit other than if you are a registered diet tech and you have worked in a clinical setting, paid clinical setting, doing assessments and so forth. We will give you 4 weeks off of your clinical. But the reason for not waiving clinical is because you just can't get that experience unless you're absolutely an intern, really meeting the competencies there, and you need that experience and that over and over and over assessment of patients and so forth to be competent in clinical dietetics. So you can waive any of the other rotations if you have adequate documentation that meets the criteria, okay? And so after you listen to this, feel free to get on our website. Our policy for prior learning is on the website, and you can see what the specifics are there. Okay, we do expect you to be ready and prepared if you're accepted here. Our motto on that is hit the ground running. That's what we expect you to do. And, your focus needs to be the internship. So it's not gonna work very well if you're trying to hold down a job and do the internship at the same time. That just doesn't work very well. Occasionally people have been able to do some nighttime work, some weekend work, that sort of thing. But if you talk a preceptor into working with you, they should be your focus, right? And their facility should be your focus. So you need to plan on certainly not working full time. That just isn't going to, the preceptor's not going to keep you if that's what's going on there. Okay, once you are accepted, you will be put into what we call the DI app, and that is our online dashboard. And our whole program runs off the DI app. It's just great. All of your stuff is right there in one place. That's where you upload all of your paperwork. You send an email to your preceptors. They approve what you've done. They approve your time, all of that stuff. And we have an electronic copy of all of it. So it's a really great system, and it keeps everything very organized, and you can see exactly where you are. When you open that dashboard, you can see, first thing you see is how many hours you have accrued towards your 1,000 hours. And then everything else that's in there, every competency you've met, this is where you put your projects, everything. So this is, you think about it as your personal file. And I think you'll find that's really convenient and easy to work with. So to apply to this program, we go through D&D Digital and DICAS. So if you're not familiar with those entities, you need to talk to your DPD director and get that information so that you understand how the process works. But essentially, DICAS is a platform where you submit your application. And D&D is a separate platform where you go in and rank your choices. Okay, so you are choosing which programs you want to be considered by or that you're applying to, right? On the other side of that, we do the same thing. We look at the students or interns, potential interns that we would like to have. And so you rank your first three choices or however many you're going to rank, and we're going to rank our top 15, 20, whatever. We take 30 interns per year. And so, again, I'm going to refer you back. We are in the fall and spring match. So if you want to start in the summer, you should apply to the spring match. If you want to start in January, February, you should apply to the fall match. Let's see what else we got here. So what's the best application look like? Two things. We look for a DPD GPA of 3.4 or above, which basically means all your nutrition coursework. We really don't pay that much attention to the non-nutrition coursework. And a complete schedule, right? At the time that I've applied, I have, 5 preceptors lined up, 6 preceptors. Some people do everything in one site. That's maybe not ideal, but it's your choice because you're programming your own educational experience. So it doesn't count against you if that's what you choose to do. If you're choosing your preceptors, they have to be registered dietitians for the clinical experience. That's because nobody else can teach you what dietitians do except for dietitians. Now, food service, community, elective can be anybody that's qualified for what they're teaching, right? Do they have a degree in this? Have they worked at this for years? Do they do research in this field? Whatever the qualification would be. But, we accept, for food service, we accept chefs, we accept certified dietary managers. For community, it could be anything in the community. You might run into nurses or public health people. All of those are fine. You just have to meet the nutrition competencies. But that's not really difficult to do. If you're looking for scholarships, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is a good place to look. That's a nationwide scholarship. Closer to home, the state sorry, lost my word. So the academy at the state level, all right? So the Texas State Dietetic Association, for every state, they will have some sort of scholarship fund set up. And so you need to pursue that and see what the deadlines are and see if there is money available for you. Let's see what else I want to talk about. We have been asked before, how much time do I have to finish? And really, what our accreditation says is that you should be finished in 150% of the time of the program. So our program is 24 weeks. So 100% of 24 is 24 plus another 50%. So 36. 36 weeks would be the outside that accreditation would like to see you finish in. That's not always possible. People get sick. People have rotations that cancel. And that's all fine. And we work with that. But that's kind of our goal, is to get you out of here in 36 weeks or less, because you need to just finish this up and go. And now that we're no longer dealing with COVID and those kind of delays, that really shouldn't be that much of a problem. When you set up your schedule, if you know that you need some time off somewhere, it's fine if you build that into your schedule. We prefer if you do it between rotations. Preceptors don't want you to work for 3 weeks and then go away for 3 weeks and then come back. So you are free to set up your schedule the way you want to. And it's fine if you build that time in, even if it takes you over the 36 weeks. We have no requirement for the GRE, although there is a requirement as of January 1, 2024, you have to be enrolled in a master's or have a master's. And in order to take the RD exam, you will have to have completed your master's. So keep that in mind. We have several master's programs that we are affiliated with. You can find those on our website, and you are welcome to choose between those if you are looking for something. All of the masters that we're affiliated with are distance programs, and so you would do them on your own virtually. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Again, if I missed something that you have a question about, please get on our website and either call Gina, her number's on the website, or send an email and I will respond to you. Thank you for your interest in Gulf Coast, and we look forward to working with you.